grade 4, and welcome to another class. Today, I will be doing composition with you, figures of speech. My name is Miss Yulita Brown Phillips. I want to share two excerpts with you. I'll read them one after the other. The first one. One night, I was home alone, sitting in the chair, watching a television. I usually watch the news every night. I heard a sound that got my attention. When I peeped through the window, it was dark, and I became afraid. I saw the neighbor's dog near the garbage bin, which seemed to have toppled as he was trying to get into it for scraps of food. I was relieved and went back to watching at the news. That's the first excerpt. This is the second one. My night ended as normal. Before going to bed, I usually watch at the news. Tonight wasn't different. As I sat there, I felt the cold wind hitting my face. As I glanced at the window, I saw the curtains dancing merrily. It was as black as star outside. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. I was a block of ice sitting on the chair. I could not move. I finally got my body to cooperate. As I crept to the window, I glanced outside, only to see it was the neighbor's dog having a scuffle with the garbage bin. Boys and girls, which one would get your attention? Which one is more exciting and vivid and colorful? For me, I would select the second excerpt. Now, boys and girls, that is what figures of speech does for your writing. But before we go to figures of speech, let's examine what is figurative language. When we use language to create figures or images that express our meanings vividly, we are using in language what is called imagery or figurative language. Figurative language is also called imaginative language. Figurative language adds color to our writing, as you notice in the two excerpts that we had. Figures of speech. Figures of speech are words or phrases that depart from straightforward literal language. Figures of speech are often used and crafted for emphasis, freshness, expression, or clarity. It creates pictures in the mind of a reader. It adds color and interest to awake the imaginative minds of the readers. Some commonly used figures of speech are similes, metaphors, onomatopoeia, personification, alliteration, hyperbole, idioms, and proverbs. Boys and girls, the list can go on and on and on. However, today we will only focus on two commonly used figures of speech, metaphors and personification. Let's zoom in on personification. Personification is applying human traits to animals, things, or ideas. It is giving life to inanimate objects, things that are not alive. Example, the flowers waltzed in the gentle breeze. Do flowers waltz? The writer wants to give a vivid picture of the movement of the flowers. The stars dance playfully in the moonlit sky. Let's look at some other examples. The moon looked down sadly. The old chair groaned under her weight. The trees waved their hands frantically. So, boys and girls, you see that all the objects there are lifeless and they are being personified. Let's go back to the examples. The moon looked down sadly. Which object is being personified? The moon. The moon is a lifeless object. Number 2. The old chair groaned under her weight. Which object is being personified? The old chair. The trees wave their hands frantically. Which object is being personified? The trees. So boys and girls, you see, personification gives life to lifeless objects. Let's move on to metaphors. A metaphor is a comparison in which one thing is said to be another. Example, she is a walking dictionary. A comparison is made between a girl and a dictionary. However, it is important to note that metaphors compare things without using as or like. A metaphor says something is something else. Let's look at a few more examples. Pizza is happiness on a plate. My bed is a fluffy cloud. Shaden's memory is a camera. He remembers everything he sees. So we see the comparison there. Pizza is being compared to happiness. A bed is being compared to a fluffy cloud. Shaden's memory is being compared to that of the camera. So boys and girls, let's recap. Personification gives life to lifeless objects. Metaphors compares two things. However, a metaphor says that something is another. So I want you to complete this activity. Write the word or phrase that is being personified in each sentence. First one, the headlamps on the car winked at me. Number 2, Kellon has a car that cares for him. Number 3, the waves gently touched Ramona's feet. So boys and girls, complete that activity. You still have another one to do. First one, the headlamps on the car winked at me. Which object there is given life? Headlamps. Kellon has a car that cares for him. Which object is given life? The car. The waves gently touch Ramona's feet. Which object is given life? The waves. Boys and girls, do you have that? Ensure you put a big tick after every one. Let's go to the second activity. Classify the sentences as similes or metaphors. As you would have learned previously, similes compare two things. Saying something is as something or like something. And we know that metaphors also compare things, but without using as or like. A metaphor says that something is another. Let's look at these three sentences. First one, Timmy was walking as slow as a snail. My computer is an old dinosaur. The ocean sound was like music to my ears. Boys and girls, take 2 minutes and get that done. You should be finished by now. Let's see what you have. Timmy was walking as slow as a snail. Is that a simile or a metaphor? It is a simile. Timmy is being compared to a snail using the word as. Number 2, my computer is an old dinosaur. Simile or metaphor? It is a metaphor. It is comparing your computer with an old dinosaur, saying that the computer is an old dinosaur. The ocean sound was like music to my ears. Simile or metaphor? It is a simile because the writer is saying that the ocean sound is like music. The writer is using the word like to compare the sound of the ocean with music. Boys and girls, I'd like us to go back quickly to the second excerpt that I shared at the beginning of the lesson. Do you see any figure of speech in it? Take a minute and check to see if you see any. What did you see? Could you identify a metaphor in that excerpt? Yes. I was a block of ice. The writer is comparing him or herself to ice without using as or like. Let's look closer. Is there any similes in this excerpt? Yes. It was as black as tar outside. The writer is comparing how dark it is outside to tar. Do you see any personification? Yes. I saw the curtains dancing merrily. So, boys and girls, I trust that you would have had an enjoyable time today. And I hope that when you have to put your writing into practice, you will be able to use all the figures of speech that you learned about to make your work colorful, to make it vivid, and to keep your reader glued to your story. Boys and girls, this has brought us to the end of today's lesson. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.